Hello, Bambaji here for another gate transit. The sun is moving into gate 1 on the 5th of November at 4:28 in the morning GMT. So you can see from the picture here that we have the gate of self-expression. It is called the creative. It is in the G center, and the G center is the home to the magnetic monopole, which sits in gate 2. And gate 2 is opposite gate 1. So you can see there is a yellow line going on either side of the G center. If you're looking at the mandala, gate 1 is up on the right, pointing up to about 1 o'clock, and gate 2 is pointing down around 8 o'clock. So we've got this wonderful expression of the duality in the mandala as these two press out. So, yeah, well, I've got so much to tell you about gate 1. It's a wonderful gate. Like there are gates that aren't wonderful. So, hello. It's lovely that you've joined me. Thank you very much for coming to see this overview of gate 1. Above the lines in the Rave I Ching, it says, creation as a primal force, the energy potential to manifest inspiration without limitation. So the first gate, it's in the G center. Yeah, and the G center is the center of the self. It's the center of identity. When the G center is open, it has a not self strategy of looking for love and direction in all the wrong places. This is the yangest of all the lines. It is made up of 6 solid lines. And that's what a yang line is. It's a solid line. And you saw there the hexagram in the wheels. There are 6 of them stacked, one on top of the other. The second gate, which is the polarity to the first gate, is 6 broken lines or 6 separated lines. These are all yin, the 6 yin lines. So there is that sort of separation in the middle of the line. Now, we live in a dualistic world. And the 1 and the 2 are a very beautiful example of this dualism, this binary that we live in. Everything is a this and a that, you know, the yin and the yang, the creative and the receptive, the creative being gate 1, the receptive being gate 2. I was in a class once with a teacher who she wanted to find a new way of describing the yin lines, because traditionally they're described as broken lines. Wherever you look on the traditional I Ching, that's how yin lines are described. They are the broken lines, and the yang lines are described as either solid or unbroken lines. So yang, of course, is a male energy, and yin is the female energy. And this woman who's holding the class, she was really offended that the yin lines should be described as broken. And so there followed a discussion, which was nothing to do with the class I was trying to take. There was nothing, it was a discussion about all sorts of suggestions were coming up, all these sorts of linguistic shenanigans and gymnastics as the participants tried to find a more acceptable word instead of using the word broken to describe these yin lines. And it struck me that it's a wonderful, wonderful example of word prejudice, really, I guess, because a word is just a word. You know, it's only our minds that make it offensive or acceptable. Here you go. So when you look at the energy behind the hexagrams, this is where we find the archetypes, because this is what they're pointing to. This is what, you know, all of these words, all of these hexagrams, all of these images that we have and these ways of describing things, they point us into a truth that we can find if we unpack it all. And so the energy behind these, they help us to make sense of our world. The yang lines are firm, they are solid, and you can see that in the way that they're very fixed. They're almost quite rigid, you could say. Yang energy is the sun's energy. It's an expansive energy. We cannot live just with that energy alone. And so we find the yin lines, and the yin lines bring a softness. They are the gentle moonlight. They are smaller, and yet the yin holds just as much power in their own way as the yang does. So they're a balance for each other, that's all. So it's not as though that yang is not broken and yin is broken. It's just, this is just nonsense. So if you hear the words broken and unbroken, please don't be triggered by them, because they don't mean, they're a description of what we're looking at visually. Okay, that's it. I don't know why I went into that. Sorry. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on. The first gate is a gate of direction. You know, the G center is also about direction. It's love, identity, and direction. These are the three themes that we find in the G center. And it is through the first gate that the direction of mutation is ultimately expressed, or it is prepared to be expressed for reaching the throat through the harmonic gate, gate 8. Gate 8 is the gate of contribution. It's the gate of holding together. And together they form the channel of inspiration, which is the creative role model. So we are firmly in individuality here. The first gate is individual in its nature. Its polarity, the second gate, is right underneath it in the G center. Therefore, it's also individual. The next three gates that we come to in the wheel, they are also individual gates. I was going to tell you what they are. Gate 43, the gate in the Ajna center, the insight, gate of insight. And then we have the 14 down in the sacral, which is possession in great measure, the gate of power skills. And then we have gate 34, the gate of power, also in the sacral. So this is what we're moving into in this beginning of a new quarter, which we'll get to in just a moment. So lots of individuality here. The energy is in this first gate, it needs to express itself as an individual role. You know, it needs to creatively express its individual direction. Anyone who carries the first gate holds deep within them a need to express their unique direction. And in that expression, the potential to be able to influence those around them through mutation. Individuality carries within it a deep creative potential because of its mutative possibilities. And yet at the same time, all individuality carries the theme of melancholy, the chemistry of melancholy. On one side, this can be experienced as melancholy, but on the other side, it can be experienced as the muse. There could be a great deal of sadness here if the self-expression cannot get out. The open G center can experience a deep searching for love, for direction. There can be a lack of stability in the life of an open G, you know, seeking for a fixed identity, which is not what it is meant to be experiencing. With an open G, we are here to reflect those around us, to be aware of our environments. You know, it's about finding a temporary identification here and experiencing that, and then finding another and here and experiencing that, and being almost a chameleon as you move from one to another, whether that's a group or a person or an environment. As an open G, you can be influenced by all of these things, but you're not here to attach to any one of those things. That's not your direction. Your direction is to be fluid and flexible, and that can be really uncomfortable until you will actually, even when you know the mechanic, but certainly until you know the mechanic. Once you know it, then you can start to accept it. You can start to work with it. You can look at your life and you can look at all the ways that that open G has maybe, you know, taken you off track because you've identified with a person over here and their qualities and you've wanted to be like them, or someone over here and you've wanted to be like them. I've got an open G. I have so many certificates in very different things that actually belong to other people because I didn't necessarily want to do them, but it was somebody maybe I admired or I liked who said, oh, you really ought to go and do da, da, da. So like, open G is like a little puppy. It's like, you know, so off I trot and do that and get the certificate. And then I realize maybe they go away, the person who influenced me, and I get to the end of that and think, oh my God, what the hell? But anyway, I have another certificate, so that's nice. If we have cold winter, I've got a lot of things to burn. So anyway, it's really important for the open G with its if you've got this gate 1 that you are expressing your individuality, but you're not actually attaching to anybody who might hook you up. You know, if you find an 8, then they're going to give you that definition, but it's still only temporary for you. So when we're dealing with that single gate, that can always be a slave. You know, it's through the not self, through the potential harmonic on the other side. It's always looking for that energy. We always want what we haven't got. So if you've just got a hanging or a dormant gate 1, then you're looking for that gate 8. You know, it's anyone who carries the first gate. I have it in my Neptune. I have it in 1-3, and so there's always that looking for the gate 8. I've got gate 1, so I'm always looking for gate 8, you know, for that force. And of course, accepting and knowing and trusting in the mechanic of it all. Gate 8s are going to come to me. You know, they are going to be the force in my life who will allow me to express my uniqueness. This is what the 8 will bring to anyone. I'm very lucky. Bear has gate 8, so I'm able to do that. Although he compromises me because he's got the 1 as well, but he brings me the energy of the 8. You know, so they come to you. What you're looking for when you're operating correctly, and correctly isn't a moral judgment, it just means according to your strategy and authority, then what you need in your life will come to you. Expressing our uniqueness through a bridge that is provided by somebody else, it can seem very positive, of course. And in this case, the 1-8, the usual illustration is that the 1 is the artist and the 8 is the manager or the art dealer. You know, so it can be a very productive, very valued and valuable relationship between those two as a sort of electromagnetic configuration. An electromagnetic is where you meet somebody who has what you're missing, if you like, not missing in a detrimental way, but you know, what you don't have. And then you meet together and you have an electromagnetic. We live in the binary, okay? We know we live in a binary, so it doesn't necessarily work that every electromagnetic is going to be healthy or correct or productive or valuable, because why would it be? You know, there are always going to be situations that we need to learn from, and we have to be aware of these things. Strategy and authority. These are what are going to make sure that the electromagnetics we come into, who come into our lives, that we can actually have a correct relationship with them. Excuse me a moment. They're very hungry, I think, because it's cold. Bear is setting me up. He's got me another camera. So I am going to have Blackbird cam, which will be interesting. We'll see how that works. Yeah, so when you find an 8th gate that's not correct for you, it can take advantage of the first gate. It can distort whatever the unique creative possibilities held in that first gate are. Everything about the way in which any one gate operates is dependent on the way in which the whole operates. Everything about the operation of the whole is dependent on the following of strategy and inner authority. You know, if you don't follow your strategy, there's no way that a unique gate within you is going to operate correctly. It can't. You can't say, oh, I'm operating correctly with my first gate, but I'm going to ignore my gate 55 or my gate 39 or whatever it is, because I don't like that energy. We're a holistic being. And I have come across people who have said that it's not, yeah, which is, yeah, okay. Whatever you think yourself. So if you don't follow your strategy, then your uniqueness, your holistic uniqueness cannot be expressed in the world. And what a loss that would be. Well, so this is a particular concern if you have a first gate in an open G center, because our first gate is subject to conditioning. Talking about the first gate specifically because that's where we are in the transit. Now, if we don't get the opportunity to express our unique role, our unique creative direction, then depression can come, melancholy can come. And the only way we can do that, if you've got an open G center, the only way you can express that is through the impact of others who come into our lives. And it's important to understand this, because without having some awareness around it, we can become really dependent on those conditioning forces. They become the ones who control our direction and the ones who become the focus of our need for love. The first gate is ultimately about direction and the need to express our unique direction. For that to happen correctly, we have to honor our own strategy and inner authority. So the role of this creativity is, it's doing your own thing. That's what the gate one is all about. It's what individuality is all about. And when and if the creativity attracts attention, then it may become an example for a new direction for others. Regardless of this potential, the drive to express one's individuality to others, it isn't always appreciated. When the channel is activated and it's operating in harmony, it contributes creative direction to the collective. But there can also be a tension in this relationship when the artist wants to be their own agent, for example, or when the agent thinks they know better than the artist. The gate of self-expression, this first gate, is one of the 4 gates of the right angle cross of the Sphinx, which is all about direction. And you may remember that Sphinx gates are found at the start of each quarter of the wheel. And today, through gate 1, we are entering into the quarter of mutation. This is the 4th quarter in the wheel. The first quarter begins with the 13th hexagram. The last quarter begins with the first hexagram. And it will end with the 19th gate, which is one of the 4 ways. So you may remember we've talked a little bit about this before, that within each quarter of the wheel, we start with the Sphinx as a vessel of love gate in the middle, and then we end with a 4th way. And a 4-way that tells us the theme that we've had. So we've got the direction of the whole, then we've got the love that will come through, and it's a love that's an impersonal love in the G center. And then we end with that 4-way gate then. And this is the 2 bookends and in the middle of each quarter. So in our configuration of the G center and against the cross of the Sphinx, we also have gate 2. And this is where we find the magnetic monopole, the driver of our vehicle, taking us on our correct trajectory through time and space. Now we only have one driver, but we have 3 perspectives of that one driver. And those 3 perspectives are found in the 3 other gates of the cross. So we have the logical perspective of the driver, who's always looking out of the front window. That's gate 7. That's logic, because logic is always looking to the future. Then we have the abstract perspective of that driver, who's always looking in the rear view mirror, the 13th gate. This is the abstract that is always about the past and learning from past experiences. And then we have the individual perspective. This is the first gate. And they're not looking forwards, they're not looking backwards, they're just listening to the radio in the now. And they're not really seeing anything. This is the individual expression of direction. Individuality is about being unique. This is creativity as uniqueness. This is difference, really. It's truly about being different. And being different gets recognized as long as it can express itself as explainable. It is not that the first gate is going to end up as a great artist. Not necessarily. They could, of course, but they may create a new genre without being the greatest exponent of that genre. Because this is a mutative force. Individuality is so mutative. So it may express itself in that way. It may be something that nobody else has ever done before. And that doesn't mean they're going to be the best at it. And it's not the point for individuality, really. Individual gates are not supposed to be, necessarily, not supposed to be the best at whatever their gate represents, because that is the collective and the tribe. They're the ones who find all that stuff about who's better, who's worse, and oh, let's talk about them, and oh, let's look at the... I mean, that's all collective and tribe. And they find that really important. When the individual gets caught up in being the best, it loses its creative possibilities, because really it can only be what is unique, what is different. And there isn't any best there. It is just what it is. The most important thing for anyone who carries the first gate is the recognition that the first gate doesn't have to be the best. No? To be best truly is collective. When there's nothing new, everyone is competing to see who can be the best at whatever they've already got. But when there is something new, best doesn't exist because there's just newness, there's just this. Individuality always brings what is new, and as such, it cannot lead, it cannot project, it cannot be the witness, and it cannot reflect. It can only live out its own unique nature. The first and the second hexagrams are essentially the same, in the way that the first hexagram remains closest in spirit to the direction of the second hexagram, because there's neither projection nor reflection, there's no past and there's no future. There's simply the spontaneous release of direction as the expression of self. The second gate is the polarity to the first gate. They are opposite each other in the wheel, which means that whenever we have the sun in gate 1, it is grounded in the earth in gate 2, and vice versa. And that's the same whether it's on the personality side or on the design side. And it's the same in the nodes. So the first gate is a roll gate. We have 6 roll gates. 2 of them are in the sacral center. 4 of them are in the G center. And then we also have 2 sort of strategy roll gates. And one is in the solar plexus and one is in the splenic center. So of the 4 roll gates in the G, 3 of them are part of the cross of the Sphinx. And the 4th is the 10th gate, which is the gate of the behavior of the self, and it is part of the vessel of love. Take shares out in a Sultana company. Whenever you see a roll gate in somebody's design, you know right away that the theme of that roll gate is something that dominates for them. It is an imperative for them to live out the essence or the nature of that role. The role that is inherent in the first hexagram is to express uniqueness and mutation, which are the same thing in many ways. This is what is always possible in the individual. When we look above the lines of both the first and the second hexagrams, we find that both contain the word primal. These are primal forces. They divide the yin and the yang of the wheel. The 6 yin lines in the receptive of gate 2 and the 6 yang lines in the creative of gate 1. Creation as a primal force in the line 1, in the gate 1, and receptivity as a primal base in gate 2. For gate 1, the heading goes on to say the energy potential to manifest inspiration without limitation. Potential. The energy potential. This is a key word here because so many things are going to be necessary for that inspiration to manifest. Mutation knows no boundary. Mutation follows no structure or order. It is something that simply jumps. The energy in the individual circuit pulses. It's a mutative pulse that is on and off. The grounding for this sun transit in gate 1, as we've already learned, is gate 2, the yinnest of all the lines, the receptive, the gate of higher knowing. This is the place of the driver, the location of the magnetic monopole. It is the second gate that literally is our capacity to be connected to our direction or to our geometry in our movement. I want to just quickly talk about the channel 1-8, just a little bit more, because we have this channel active during this sun's transit because Uranus is in gate 8. So we already know it's an individual channel, and it is also a projector channel. This channel carries all of the themes of individuality that we've already spoken about. It's a channel that is here to be creatively different from everybody else and to have the courage to stand out from the crowd. Simply by being yourself, you will get the recognition that you deserve. If you seek out that recognition, you risk being seen as being a little bit too different, a little bit too out there. And your power to empower others will be reduced. Every circuit in the body graph, we have the three, we have the collective, individuality, and tribal. Each of those circuits has its own creative channel. This is the creative channel of individuality for the knowing circuit. Those who carry this channel can be so unusual with their creativity that they end up being a role model for others, inspiring others just by being bold through being unique. This is a channel of leadership, although individuality isn't really that interested in leading or in being followed. They simply set the example of someone who knows where they're going. And that in itself can be very impactful and as a role model for other people. It's one of those, we don't have to be like everyone else. It's a real dehomogenization kind of thing. For the next 6 days, we are all experiencing this channel. If you don't have this activated in your design usually, then see if you can be aware of how it's working in you. You don't want to start acting out as though it's yours, because that energy is going away when the sun moves on. So just bring some awareness to that as well. Because whatever you set in motion while you have this channel in your design through this transit, when the sun moves on, you might have to deal with consequences that, may not be something that you want to look at. And this is something we have to be aware of with any transit, especially if it brings us a channel in our design, because then acting out these archetypes of the channels is something that we can really feel driven to do. And so if we start doing something, it's like when we get the 4323 in, which comes in the next sun transit, someone about talking about mutation and talking about the amazing individual insights that we have. If that's not what we're designed to do, we're not equipped to deal with the consequences of it. It's not good, bad. You remember, there's no moralistic stuff going on here. It's really that I'm not equipped to deal with that. Therefore, I'm going to bring some awareness to it. And if it's not correct for me, then I'm not going to be driven by my, not self impulses to get out there and, show my contribution to the world. Something else to mention today, I know this is going on a bit long, but I'm nearly done. And so something else to mention is that we're entering a new quarter today. This is the quarter of mutation, the fourth quarter of the wheel. I'm smiling because I love mutation. This is my quarter in as much as my personality sun is in mutation. So it's like feels so juicy to me, this quarter. This is where we find purpose fulfilled through transformation, which is all mutation is. It's a transformation into something new. It's a change. In many ways, it's a quarter about finding our purpose in being human. We've been through the mind, the civilization, the duality and bonding, and here we are now in transformation. What is all of that leading to? So it's a completion of the process, although it's a wheel. So also there's never really an end to the process, but it's around. Well, we start again, always, until we don't, if you know what I mean. The mystical theme of this quarter, because each quarter has a mystical theme, and this is accepting death. That's the sort of ultimate mutation, really, the ultimate transformation, I guess. It can be hard to accept death, especially for the not self. It can be hard to accept death for everybody, of course. It's it's a thing, isn't it? Death. Some of us, again, what are we equipped to deal with? What are we equipped to share, to pass on, to give? I work with cosmology. As many of you know, I love rave cosmology, and there is a whole module there that is dedicated to a correct death. How do we have a correct death? And it's a correct death. Again, it's not a moralistic correct death. It's correct in as much as our personality crystal and all of the information that it has filtered and stored through this incarnation can go back to its bundle. and be where it needs to be to carry on filtering what it's filtering from the neutrino stream. If the death is not correct, then that process doesn't happen, and the information in that crystal doesn't go back to its original bundle. So it's a thing, the whole death. And we have death doulas now, don't we? We have birth doulas and death doulas that help this process through. And I'm really getting off topic. Quarter of mutation. It focuses us on the need to empower our own spirit and to love being us, just to love ourselves. This is the final transformation in a way. Brings us to that point of like, oh yes, yeah. And we can do that even as our consciousness evolves through life's rich adventures. We see this theme in the first gate. You know, it sets the tone for the quarter. It sets the direction for the quarter. Stay true to what you love doing, to how you express your uniqueness in this world. That's the message. And this is what we are here to do or to be. You know, it's our authentic selves, to penetrate others, to penetrate life itself with our unique spirit. Within this quarter, we have one full channel. We have gate 34 coming up in a couple time, and then gate 10 at the middle of the quarter. And this, the 3410, is the channel of exploration. It's a design of following our own convictions. This is the path to transformation. Ra said that we don't have to improve what we are, but we can polish it. We can get more and more correct so that we gleam with correctness. And we live out the truth of who we are. And we do it without carrying an idea with us of what life is, or what life should be, or what life could be. And we just accept our own unique perfection. Thank you for joining me for this overview for the first line, first gate. I will be doing the first line. It will follow on from here. And if you would like to, please do enjoin me. I'm going. I will be going through the lines of the first gate over the next 6 days. So thank you very much for joining me. Actually, it's not 6 days because we've got a double sun transit day as well, I think, in gate 1. So yeah, look out for that. And yeah, I will see you soon. Thank you so much for joining me. This quarter is it's juicy. It's a juicy quarter. I will see you soon. And until then, as always, love yourself as we go through the quarter of mutation, and go gently.